What is Consciousism? Consciousism is a worldview, an evolving spiritual and philosophical path rooted in the recognition that consciousness is primary. It sees subjective awareness not as a flaw of perception, but as the very ground of reality. It teaches that everything is connected, every life has value, compassion is a civic principle, and freedom of thought is sacred. Consciousism is not a religion in the dogmatic sense, but a living charter for how humanity might grow together, scientifically and spiritually, toward greater understanding and mutual care. It respects the diversity of beliefs and identities, offering no absolute answers, but encouraging each person to question, explore, and evolve in community with others. At its heart, Consciousism is a call to remember that you are more than a body, and this world is more than a machine. Consciousism did not arise in a vacuum. It stands upon thousands of years of human searching, discovery, and wisdom. Its core themes, consciousness, interconnection, and compassion, have echoed across cultures, lands, and times, weaving a golden thread through humanity's diverse heritage. Let us follow this timeline as it weaves through the world's cultures and peoples. Indigenous and animist wisdom, prehistory present. For at least 40,000 years, from the Paleolithic cave art of southern France, roughly 30,000 BCE, to the Dreamtime stories of Aboriginal Australia, and the animist cosmologies of Native American, African, and Arctic peoples, humanity has recognized a sacred web of life in these indigenous worldviews. All beings, human and non-human, are kin. Animals, trees, rivers, stones, and winds are woven into a living network of relationships. The Shinto traditions of Japan, the Sami of Scandinavia, and the Ojibwe in North America all carried forward this knowledge. Consciousism honors this ancient insight that existence is never separate and that all life is worthy of respect. Eastern philosophies, roughly 800 BCE onward, around 800 BCE in India, the Advaita Vedanta school taught that consciousness is the ultimate ground of being, seeing all diversity as reflections of one underlying awareness, Brahman. In the 5th century BCE, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, revealed the psychology of mind, how perception and craving create suffering, and how compassion and mindfulness dissolve it. His insight that mind conditions reality resonates deeply with Consciousism. Meanwhile, in China, Lao Tzu, roughly 6th century BCE, taught through Taoism that humans should flow harmoniously with the Tao, the natural way of the universe, rather than dominating it. These Eastern philosophies consistently recognized consciousness, compassion, and interdependence as fundamental truths. Greek philosophy, between 500 to 300 BCE. In Athens, around 470 to 399 BCE, Socrates challenged his society to know thyself, planting seeds of critical inquiry and self-awareness that still inspire. His student Plato, between 428 to 348 BCE, argued that the realm of forms, timeless, ideal patterns, was more real than the changing world of matter, echoing the idea that mind shapes reality. Around the same time, the Stoic philosophers, roughly 300 BCE onward, taught logos, a universal reason that orders the cosmos, and proposed a moral code built on compassion, wisdom, and acceptance of nature's laws. Consciousism inherits their respect for rational inquiry and their commitment to harmony with the cosmos. Abrahamic faiths, 1200 BCE to current day. The Hebrew prophets of the first millennium BCE preached justice, mercy, and the inherent dignity of each person. Foundations that Judaism brought to the world, Christianity 1st century CE, through the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. placed radical compassion and love for the marginalized at its moral center. Islam, revealed in the 7th century CE through the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, affirmed the equality of all believers and demanded social justice and mercy. These faiths built vast civilizations upon moral codes of dignity, care for the poor, and the sanctity of human life, principles Consciousism embraces as part of its own ethical lineage. Enlightenment and Humanism, 17th-18th centuries. In Europe, between the 1600s and late 1700s, the Enlightenment sparked a revolution of free inquiry, scientific method, and individual rights. Thinkers like Voltaire, Spinoza, and John Locke challenged authoritarian dogma and declared that human reason and conscience must remain free. At the same time, the humanist tradition flourished, seeing every person as deserving of respect and capable of growth. Consciousism carries forward these ideals of freedom of thought, human dignity, and rational exploration. Modern science and systems thinking, 19th-20th centuries. In the 19th century, ecology emerged, showing how living systems depend on vast networks of relationships. Systems theory in the mid-20th century, Ludwig von Bertalanffy, 1968, described the interconnected, dynamic nature of complex systems. Physics in the early 20th century, through quantum mechanics, Max Planck, 1900. Niels Bohr, 1920s, and relativity Einstein, 1905 to 1915, revealed that the observer plays a role in how reality unfolds, hinting that consciousness cannot be easily separated from the world it measures. Neuroscience, from the mid-20th century onward, began charting the links between mind and brain, inspiring a new dialogue between subjective experience and objective science. Consciousism sees these discoveries as allies, not threats, to spiritual growth. 20th century mysticism and integral thought, 1900 to 2000. The 20th century also witnessed a revival of integrative spiritual thinking. Carl Jung, 1875 to 1961, explored the collective unconscious and archetypes. Pierre Teilhard Desjardins, 1881 to 1955, proposed an evolutionary path toward a unified omega point of consciousness. Ken Wilber, born 1949, developed integral theory, uniting science, psychology, and spiritual traditions into a single framework. These thinkers opened the possibility of seeing human consciousness as an evolving collective process, foreshadowing Consciousism's emphasis on collective awareness. Modern justice and environmental movements, 1960-present, in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Social movements radically challenged hierarchy, exploitation, and injustice. The civil rights movements of the 1960s, feminism, indigenous rights revitalizations, restorative justice initiatives, deep ecology, and the climate justice movement, all drew upon a deeper respect for interconnection, compassion, and the healing of historical wounds. Consciousism integrates these efforts into a living ethic for a just society. 21st century consciousness studies 2000 present. Today, scientists and philosophers explore the hard problem of consciousness with new vigor. Panpsychist theories, integrated information theory, and quantum approaches to brain processes have reopened the question: is consciousness primary? Consciousism celebrates this rediscovery as essential, that subjective experience is not an afterthought of matter, but central to any meaningful understanding of reality. What Consciousism offers today is not a break from humanity's heritage, but a continuation. From the cave painters who saw spirits in the hunt, to modern physicists wrestling with quantum paradoxes, humans have long known that consciousness, compassion, and interconnection are keys to life's meaning. Consciousism honors all of these voices, It invites people to carry this wisdom forward into a new era, a living tradition of questioning, loving, and awakening together.